What's up, y'all? This is Matthew from the Rim Review. The Rim Review is a page that offers in depth player analysis and gives nuance to the way that you watch basketball. In this series, we're going to be going over every single prospect in the upcoming 2026 NBA Draft. And in today's episode, we're going to be looking at our first international player of the series, and that is going to be Karim Lopez out of the NBL in Australia. When going into Karim Lopez's offensive strengths, there are a bunch of things to note. Firstly, he's incredibly athletic, especially around the rim. He gets a ton of offensive rebound putbacks. He's able to get a bunch of elite high-level plays, bringing the energy around the rim. Secondly, he's got a strong snap drive, so whether it's in closeouts, he's got a really strong rip, can accelerate downhill to get to his bread and butter around the rim. When he was used as a roll man, he had some great flashes. He was in the 91st percentile in pick and roll. However, that was some low volume, like I think it was less than 20 possessions with the New Zealand Breakers. And then lastly, he's a pretty average shooter. He shot 33% from 3 and 36% from spot up. So, average, but nothing crazy. Talking about offensive weaknesses, the first thing you'll see clearly is that he has terrible handles. He had a high volume of turnovers, especially in isolation, and I haven't fully bought into him as a ball handler. He also frequently spins into traffic, and so he doesn't really have that awareness with the ball, which kind of goes hand in hand with the high volume of turnovers. And the third offensive weakness I want to address is that he has some poor decision making, especially in transition. He was in the 46th percentile in transition, which obviously is in the middle of the pack, but for a guy that really can, dominate around the rim, that transition points per possession should be much higher. And then lastly, he tends to be off balance and out of control, something that you can obviously work on, but it's kind of a glaring red flag in Karim Lopez's game. Let's get straight into the first part of Karim Lopez's game that I want to talk about, and that is transition. I think when I was watching, I was really hoping that he would be a better transition scorer, but unfortunately the 47th percentile it makes sense when watching. So he gets a board, tries to go coast to coast with it, and is able to go through contact, which I think is really great. That should have been a foul called. Karim Lopez is right for complaining, but most of the other time it's just really worrisome. And so in this example, we see Karim Lopez, they give him the ball, go coast to coast, but unfortunately, I just don't like this decision making whatsoever. We can see they've got two of their bigs that are behind the play. So basically it's a 3-on-5, and Lopez should understand, hey, I shouldn't, try to penetrate, just get into some flow action, but instead tries to go and penetrate into the rim, and this is just a bad, picture, every single time. And then lastly, one part about his transition game is that sometimes he just tries to, he doesn't have, great playmaking capabilities, which is worrisome for a guy that is kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. You should be a pretty decent passer, but there are plenty of examples where just bad, passes overall. Going to pick and roll, he's mostly a pick and roll ball handler for being a forward, but there were some flashes of him being a pick and roll man. And so I think for a forward, I kind of want that versatility where you can kind of set. And so there were some flashes where this is a really good screening angle. I love this. Again, I've talked about screen at the butt, and so as a result, they've got two on the ball. And as a result, like in our last video, when you've got two on the ball, there's only going to be 3 defenders. So this low man is going to either have to choose to guard his regular man or pick up on Karim Lopez. He decides to pick up, but he's just a little too short, and Lopez gets an easy dunk. Now, most of these other examples are going to be Karim Lopez, with the ball. So, as I've talked about, he frequently loves that spin move. And so, as we see right here, he's kind of out of control with that spin. I don't hate it, but see, force a switch, spin, but instead of trying to be on balance, he's again out of control and tries to get a reverse layup, but is unable to finish at the basket. And I feel like that's just consistently something that happens in his game. In this example, we had a pin down into a side pick and roll. And again, this is what I like to see. If you're going to go with this spin, I want the ball high and I want him to be balanced off of two. So we see, as I said, pin down, let Karim Lopez get the ball. Big man number 3 is going to set a side pick and roll. And again, that spin is beautiful, and I think he does really, really well. But you need to get that ball high, as he does in this example. And it's a good flashes, and I think it really shows how it's not perfect, but he loves that spin move. This is the next example. It's going to be against some switch, and just that change of pace is beautiful. And so right here we call this some boom action, where you pass it to him and the big sets a screen, and you see kind of hesitation, fade, nice bucket. Now we're going to be going into some ghost action, as we've talked about. And so simply ghost actions where you don't set the screen, but he's just kind of out of control. And so we'll talk about this more in his isolation examples, but unfortunately he just doesn't have great handles. Tries to set a ghost to switch. Unfortunately, they don't do that, and he goes to that spin that he loves, but it results in a turnover. This next example, some transition pick and roll, where again, this is what I was kind of talking about with that second example, is that I would rather in transition, just let it go into some flow. You don't have to go coast to coast. And if you just waited 1 second, like in this example, we're gonna be able to get into some drag action, which is an early pick and roll, and they switch as he rejects the screen, and as he's behind the play, simply the guy guarding number 3 decides to pick up. So we got 2 on the ball, and that's just a simple read, get to the big man. This is going to be our last example in pick and roll, but again, something that worries with me, especially with his decision making. So in this example, we see that they go some flex action, and he decides to split the screen, but unfortunately results in a turnover. So if y'all are unaware of what flex action is, I'll just give you a little rundown. So he's going to have this pin in screen right here, followed by a pin down by number 7. And so you can kind of decide whether you want to go off this screen to the paint, or simply just run up. So in this example, we see he rejects the screen and tries to split after the pick and roll, but he gets into traffic and it's a turnover. And so that high volume of turnovers worries me for a guy that had, I think, 63 possessions as a pick and roll ball handler. It just worries me some. And so the fact that he's a little inconsistent as a ball handler worries me. And then if you're going to want to space him as a shooter, he's not elite. In this example, I will say it was a bad pass by the ball handler on the breakers. But the fact that you see right here, there's 13 seconds left on 14 seconds, but when he catches it, there's 13 seconds left on the ball, left in the shot clock. And so I'd rather have a guy that only shoots 33%. I'd rather him just, drive with his left hand, get downhill, but instead he shoots an off balance 3, bad decision, and obviously it's going to be short. However, that's not every scenario. He sometimes does have some solid footwork where he simply is going to go into, left, right, skip, and simply the defender of Karim Lopez isn't respecting his shot. And so although he's not, an elite shooter, only shoots 36%, but that's going to be one that goes in. Transitioning into off screen, I think there's just one example, but it's, the fact that he is, he does have a big body. He's 225, 6'8", so he does have that good frame that he can develop. And so simply we see it's kind of a weird pin down. I don't really know if it's a full pin down, but Karim Lopez is going to curl off that, get a catch around the nail, and simply he's more physical, gets through contact off too. I love to see that. Now getting into isolation, something that I'm fully not bought in, and I'm really confused how some people really love his isolation work. Although in this example, it is a bucket, it's not a great example in my opinion. Firstly, I want to note the weak handles, nothing too crazy. And so the fact that if he's going to be used a lot as a ball handler, he's obviously going to need to get a little bit better ball handling skills. But the fact that he's just, off one, a little off balance, he's got that strong shoulder, which is great, but it's just nothing that I've fully bought into. This next example is going to be Karim Lopez, isolation, quick first step, but he's just off balance around the rim. Simply, I'd rather have him try to get that strong shoulder as we've shown before, but instead he's kind of caught with his defender and it's going to be a missed shot. This next example, I think it's the second to last, is going to be just simply, some hesitation. And he's got, some flashes, as I've said. He's good. I think he's more of, a development project, especially as we've said. He's basically a jack of all trades, master of none. And so you've got a lot to work with, but you really need to figure out what the part of his game he's going to want to be. I think really around the rim is what I love. And so the fact that he can kind of have that hesitation, step through, athletic left hand finish, it's really, really nice to see. But then there could be times where in this example where it's going to be isolation and it's just, a not great shot selection. Although it's 5 seconds in the shot clock, I'd rather him, either try to drive to the rim or just shoot anything except for a step back three. I don't love to see that. It's drop coverage, or it's not drop coverage, but it's a switch. Big man's on him. He should be way faster. I think simply when you see this, that it's going to be a switch. I think he just needs to drive downhill. There's 6 seconds left. I'd much rather have a pull-up mid-range shot than a step-back three, even though both shots are, terrible shot selections. Now going into a game that I really, really love with Karim Lopez, and that's going to be his snap drives. I think if there's something that you need to point out with Lopez, it's this. And so in this example, we see they go into some ghost action, as we've said, gets the ball, good snap decision, loves that spin, and stays on balance step through. I think this is the best example that I've seen through Lopez, which I just love to see. Everything he likes, great snap drive, loves that spin, and is on balance. This is going to be perfect, and the the ceiling of Lopez's game. This next example, we see Lopez in the corner, again strong, rip, snap drive, love to see it, and it's just these are like the great instincts that that he wasn't even taught this at the NBA level, but simple, strong shoulder, and gets an athletic dunk through contact. This next example, an attacking closeout, he slides, a little pump fake, tries to kind of get an awkward Euro. So this is, not a great example, but I like that he does have that realization. So we see basic NBA knowledge. There's two guys on the right part of the court, and so as a result, you're driving towards two men. So number 8 is going to be setting or he's going to be cutting through the back, and Lopez will slide to the corner. So great decisions. Pump fake, awkward Euro, off balance at the rim. And so simply, again, as I've said, just got to have that, maturity to just be on balance. He's really, really strong, and I like to see that. But the fact that he's got some awkwardness, it happens a lot. But this example, he does it much better. Again, it's going to be another strong rip on the corner. Not fully, I'd say, an attacking closeout, but I wanted to, add this as it kind of shows the difference between the previous clip and this example, where he is able to kind of be more on balance with the step through, reverse leg. Last two examples going to be two kind of miscellaneous categories. One small thing, this is only one clip, but he did it a ton. He travels a lot, and so if he's going to be, in isolation or in pick and roll in this example, he just travels tremendously. And so it's just the little things, but it's something to note for a guy that might be a lottery pick. And then lastly, elite offensive rebounder. I probably should include more clips, but this is just, a highlight play. You might have seen this on ESPN. I mean, I saw it when it came out. but simply transition, early shot up. Nobody's blocking him. He has that realization to just crash the boards, and he's got that athleticism to have an incredible putback. Now let's transition into Karim Lopez's defense. I will say this, I'm going against the grain to most analysts, and that is that I think Karim Lopez has really no defense whatsoever. I think there are two strengths that I'll talk about. One, he's got elite length, so he's got that 7'1" wingspan that you just can't teach. And to match with that elite length, he's got incredible verticality and help defense. He had 31 blocks, which was 13th in the NBL. But in my opinion, these are really the only two defensive strengths whatsoever. A lot of people think he's some, elite defensive talent that, can develop into, a great defender. But in my opinion, I don't see this whatsoever. Going into his defensive weaknesses, firstly, he's incredibly clumsy. He has no awareness and just terrible intangibles overall. Secondly, horrific screen navigation. I don't know if it was just the teaching of the New Zealand Breakers, but it was just horrific screen navigation on and off ball. It seems like he's just lazy. The third defensive weakness that I want to talk about is that he just cannot guard the post whatsoever. It's kind of embarrassing how bad he was. He was in the second percentile in post defense, and so if he is going to be this 6'8", 225 forward, there might be times where they switch 4 and 5, or if he's a small 4. But whatever the scenario is, if he does switch, and you can kind of just bully him tremendously, even though he's supposed to be pretty strong. And then lastly, he just cannot stay low on the ball. It's kind of laughable how he gets beat by guards consistently, and he was in the 25th percentile in isolation defense. Going into transition defense, I've got a few examples where in this example, he doesn't pick up a man, and he's just completely confused. And so as a result, it's basically a 4 on 5, and it's just kind of embarrassing how he just hasn't had that, realization what to do. So I don't like in right here, he's clearly number 6 is picking up the ball, but instead Karim Lopez decides to almost double. Yes, it's late in the game, there's 2 minutes left, but I don't love the fact that he just doesn't have this simple awareness. He's just following the ball instead of picking up a man, and it just leaves a wide open 3. It's pretty embarrassing. This next example is going to be talking about his verticality, where there is, some flashes. Elite verticality, one of his 31 blocks, where he has elite chase down, and I think this is just great. We see right here, he's kind of in the pack for the offensive rebound. My apologies. Doesn't get it, but he's just sprinting, and it's gonna be basically a 2-on-1, but he is able to get back into play, chase down block, incredible. But I just think most of this time it's just embarrassing. I don't love the fact that he's trying, for a guy that's not great at defense in my eyes. Why are you picking the ball up like past half court? It just makes no sense. I think all you need to do, you should sprint back in transition, and then once you get past half court, face your man. You don't have to start picking up before the offense crosses half court. As a result, they simply have to set, a drag screen, number 33 we see right here. He sets like a ghost kind of, a twist, whatever it is, and Lopez is simply out of the play. This leaves a simple, easy layup, and this is just because of a terrible, bad pickup point by Lopez. It's something you can teach, but I don't know if it's just unteachable if he doesn't have that awareness. It's just quite embarrassing. Going into on ball, as I've said, he cannot guard on ball whatsoever. He's got a low stance, which I love to see, but I don't know if it's just whether he's just not laterally quick, but he just gets beat by the guard. There are times where he has, verticality, and he's got these flashes. So we see right here, he's on ball, kind of body between, gets a tip on the ball. And so, again, against, a smaller ball handler, this is what I like to see for a guy that, isn't laterally quick. You just need to stay low, be physical. We see right here, he kind of like checks the ball handler. It's not fully body between where he walls up, but he is able to recover, get some verticality, tip the ball. This next example going to be another on ball where he does stay in front and it's a good contest. Um, Again, it's late shot clock, so something to notice where it's nothing crazy impressive. Where again they're gonna have to shoot that no matter what, but the fact that he does able to get a contest up is great. Going into pick and roll now, as I've said, it's just I could do better. I'll be honest. I've played ball, but not at this level. But this is just horrific navigation. Like, it's just embarrassing. He's picking the ball up so high, and so they simply just set a screen and he goes under, but under so much where he doesn't even recover, and it's just the most embarrassing pick and roll example I've pretty much ever seen. I've seen better examples with like an 8-year-old church league basketball. It's just embarrassing. Again, another example in pick and roll where he's not in a stance, doesn't pop back, no body between. Just another pretty bad example. Right here, you should be in a stance. You're on ball. He doesn't do that. He's just inconsistent. That when he's picking up, he's almost like a performative defender. He'll pick up full court, and he'll have a stance, but then, simply in pick and roll, 16 seconds left in the shot clock, no stance whatsoever. So as a result, they try to, soft hedge, and he doesn't pop back whatsoever. It's just quite embarrassing. Again, just no effort on defense. So right here we see it's just lackadaisical, lets the offensive player blow by, gets an and one, and it's just so sad to see for a guy that could be really, really good. But it's just the lack of effort where he doesn't war the screen. He should be, lowering his left shoulder. He doesn't do that. Simply behind the play and gets beat and, results in a foul and one. That's 3 points. Now going into dribble handoff situations, just one example we see right here where he should be up the floor, and this is just horrific navigation. I will say, again, there's only 5 seconds left in the shot clock, but you need to be up the floor and try to war the ball screen, blow it up, but instead he doesn't lower that right shoulder and just doesn't has a late contest. And again, as I've said, it's 1 second in the shot clock, so it's going to be an off balance shot by the offense, but it's just something that I don't love to see. Going into off ball, as I've said, he has bad navigation. I don't know if this is just like the communication by the New Zealand Breakers, but I just don't love to see it where they set a stagger screen. So we see 2 off ball screens. Karim Lopez, we see, is guarding the first screener, and so they reject the stagger, which results into Karim Lopez's man going off of that second pin down. And so it's just bad navigation. They go into, it's like a stagger into a zoom action, but it's just bad navigation. Basically runs into the screen and results in, a mid-range shot. Off ball, next example, they're running, not zone, but he just kind of gambles and gets behind the play, as we see right here. I don't love this for the fact that there's 10 seconds left in the shot clock. I know I've talked about the shot clock a lot, but it's just that court awareness. You need to realize that simply if they're passing the ball right here, just stick to the ball. You don't have to try to get like a steal resulting in a coast-to-coast finish. And so the fact that he's behind the play and then results, although it was a foul by, his teammate, he tried, the number 6 on the Breakers had to kind of gap, and because he had to gap because Lopez was behind the play. And so it's just unfortunate to see that he really is not great. This next example, no C-man through. You should be kind of aware of, where your offensive player that you're guarding is. So you see they're at the, block area, and so simply he just has no awareness. He's staring at the ball instead of his man, and it's just embarrassing that if your man is right here, the fact that he's still staring at number 30, the guy that passed the ball, it's just quite embarrassing, I will say. The last three categories that I'm going to be going over are help defense, post defense, and closeouts. But firstly, I want to talk about help. And so, as I've said, when he's the low man, he's got great verticality, but pretty much everything else in help, it's again not a great story. So in this example, we see he's in the help on the on-ball side, and so as a result, as we've said, quickly you just need to swipe at the ball and then get back to your man. Unfortunately, in this example, it's a really slow gap and just a bad turnaround to get back and close out. So he doesn't do both, and it's just quite unfortunate. This next example is going to be when they're rotating, and so again, this is probably going to be, maybe a part of the Breakers offense or Breakers, coaching. But in this example, we see he's at the nail, quick gap, but unfortunate, gets blown by during the rotate. He's got that effort at the end of the play, but the fact that it's not very difficult to be at the nail and simply realize that the man that's guarding the high quad is going to rotate, so you simply can just stick at the ball. But unfortunately, it's a bad rotate. We look at his feet, they're right here, which is just, if you just think about it conceptually, he's going to get blown by easily. And so it's something that could easily be fixed, and that this could be a great play, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. Again, more examples in help where he's just not up the floor and it results in a wide open three. Although this is really, really, really deep, NBA level, I just don't like the fact that we see this picture right here. He's just staring at the ball. You should be up the floor. You should be up the floor like this. Have your chest, facing your man, having both of your hands pointed at the ball and then at, the parallel or perpendicular to your defender. Instead, he's just staring and just gets, pretty much a no contest. It's pretty unfortunate. I will say, though, there are times where he's got that verticality, and so we see right here, Lopez gets a great, block. And so we'll see right here, and this is just something you should kind of notice in basketball when they get this post entry. A lot of these defenders are going to be shrinking the court, and that really just means that you're just trying to help your fellow defenders. And so he's got that verticality, gets a nice block, but I don't think this makes up for the fact that he can't really do anything else on defense. This example, he's the low man, and it is a good rotate where he is vertical. So as we said, low man, it's the weak side, and so as we've seen, they're playing drop coverage, and so as the guy that's setting the screen is rolling, his defender wasn't able to get back, and so Karim Lopez does do a nice job at rotating and staying vertical. It's great, but again, the fact that he isn't, he isn't really a 4. I'd say he's more of a 3. So the fact that this is the only thing he can do on defense is it's just a hard watch. In this example, it's just going to be post defense. This one of two examples where he just simply gets bullied. And so I don't really think this is, a crazy 6'10", 6'11" center. It's basically the same size as him, and he just simply gets bullied. He doesn't sit down in his chair. He just doesn't have that, strength that I would expect for a guy that is pretty decent on offense around the paint. Again, this example, it's going to be high post where he just has no physicality and just simply gets beat by this, strong jab rip. And so it's just quite unfortunate with his game. These last final two examples are going to be with closeouts where he just doesn't have great footwork with this closeout. And so as we watch this example, although he does have good recovery and a good contest, I don't love the fact that when he's closing out, he's so far towards the left side of his body. If you're going to have this angle with your feet, I'd much rather have it be more flat or more to the right. As a result, it's a simple read by the offensive player where he can go towards the left side, and Karim Lopez does have good, recovery, but it's just bad footwork. This could be another example where it's just bad footwork, um, and at the end of the play,
Okay.
falls for a pump fake at the rim, and so it's just, as I've said this whole time, right? We see him. He's at the low man. It's like the fact again we see right here. This is just such an obvious read by the offensive player. If he's going to be forcing him left, but he doesn't, if he's forcing him left but is too far to the left, you simply just go the opposite direction. And so again, he's more physical because Karim Lopez isn't great at the rim, and so it's just an unfortunate overall that he's just such a bad defender. So with all things considered with Karim Lopez, it's in my opinion, it's a rough going for him. Firstly, as I've said, a lot of people think that he's a jack of all trades and a master of none. But in my opinion, for a guy that's supposed to have that title, you should be good at or decent at pretty much everything. But the defensive side is just horrific. That's just such a glaring issue. He is a streaky on the offensive end. He's a streaky shooter, and he's frequently out of control with the ball. And then, although he's got that defensive length with that 7'1" wingspan, out of everyone that I've watched, and I've watched some other guys that I'm going to be putting more film on, he's the clumsiest prospect that I've ever seen whatsoever. And so I know in the NBA that you need to know your role. And so for a guy like a Karim Lopez, a forward, you need to know your role, what you're going to be doing. But unfortunately, I just don't think he's established that whatsoever. Again, he's a streaky shooter, so I don't think, he's a guy that's can, camp corner and space the floor. He's kind of hit or miss around the rim. I think if he has any role, it would be more of like a Denny role where you can kind of just, a slasher. But it's the unfortunate reality that he's so bad at defense, where the fact that he doesn't have an obvious role on the offensive end just worries me tremendously. I think with good development and good coaches, I think he could be really good. There's a chance he could be really good. But in my eyes, I personally think he's going to be one of the biggest busts. And I think he shouldn't even fall in the first round. Definitely not the lottery. I think he's more early second round in my eyes. But that's just me. Well, I do want to say thank you so much for watching another episode of The Rim Review. If you have any players you want me to watch, let me know down in the comments. And until next time, thank you so much.